it's it's all in the it's all in Hashem's hands. How everything is, how it moves. Like we don't believe in coincidences, so it's like you put that energy into the world. That vessel's already been built, and now it's just manifesting. You know what I mean? So it's like you get that question, or was that last week, and now you get this whole concept, and the fact that it's even being spoken about. I think is the residue like we've been talking about. Like it's the
Mm.
residue being formed, and now how it plays out, we don't know, but we can see that this energy is moving towards this place. And I mean, it's I think I told you personally, this is like we're in legendary times. Like who could imagine that type of conversation being had? You know what I mean? Like we're talking about the temple. Are you serious? It's crazy. But it's amazing. Legendary times.
Yeah. And just like waking up to it, you know what I mean? It's just like I mean, when I say waking up to it, like just seeing that, like someone just sending it to you, and you're just like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like there's a resolution now in the Congress about representing, the same exact conversation we've been having, And you're just like this is like it's just a very big concept. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's once again on the same, basically on um, the same vein as the question that was asked last week, to bring this whole concept to the world stage, where it's going to be in the minds of not only the politicians of the world, but also Jews around the world. But it's interesting though that it's kind of dealing with the aspect of you know like freedoms for all
Yep.
three religions. You know, I do have some concerns about that, and so that is something that I am concerned with. But hey, uh, it's a Baruch Hashem that is actually on the minds and the hearts of the people, and if we can get access to all of the gates, I think that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, let's just show you how fast like everything's moving. I had a meeting earlier today with a director, and she's gonna, basically we're gonna start shooting tomorrow, and the concept is around it. What we're gonna do is it's a documentary, but I'm doing it like this. We're shooting a documentary, but it really is a TV series. You know what I'm saying? It's really actual like episode series. But the concept is like this: is that so basically, you guys know my whole story, the backstory, and I come to Israel and very, yeshivish, litvish, the whole thing. And long story short, I meet other rabbis, whatever, and I learn about the Temple Mount. I eventually start going on it, right? And when I started going on it, I started getting pushback from people that, I knew from the past and these types of things. And so I went on. So the story is like, is me here in Israel. And I'm basically going out and talking to people on both sides. I'm talking to people who are advocates for it. And I'm talking to people who are against people going up there. I'm going to meet with different rabbis that are, for it, and they're going to explain their case. And then I'm going to have rabbis that, says you shouldn't do it, blah, blah. Maybe some political people. I don't know. I'm trying to stay away from that because I don't want it to be like labeled extremist. And then also, I'm going to have, different interviews with people who are actually on the Temple Mount talking about their experiences and what it means to them. And the whole point of it is just to just put out both sides, right? And to say like, hey, this is the pros, these are the cons, these are people say yes, these people say no, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, we kind of start to talk. I don't know who the person I'm going to meet with about it, but um, but the idea is to say, we meet with somebody and we're going to talk about the connection to the Abraham Accord, and how this transformation of the Temple Mount, of having equality in the Temple Mount, because you got to realize the Temple Mount is a place for all of humanity, right? And all the non-Jews are able to come and bring offerings and these types of things, and they're part of it, and, you know, different things they're a part of in terms of like certain times of the year, you know. And so um and so the idea is just is to do that. So we start literally filming next week, maybe even as early as Sunday. And and you know, whatever. So we're just going to do that. And at this stage, you know, the idea is just to start shooting footage and then, like, you know, kind of like condense it into a small trailer. And then I'm going to look for, you know, more support, right? Like when you saw the resolution that was put out um in the US Congress today, that I actually read the resolution itself. You can find it online as well. And so, but there's a lot of people backing it, you know, a lot of other organizations. So as I do the trailer, I'm gonna, you know, get other people involved and, you know, make it into a real thing. And I'm even gonna probably bring in some more like Israeli filmmakers to really, you know, really take it to that next level. Because right now I'm just shooting like like a demo like trailer, like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, here's my story, here's what we're doing, and blah blah blah, and it's going to be cool, right? And I made movies in the past, right? And so that's the concept. So I personally, I think this is the Temple Mount, right? So we're talking about like billions of people around the world have an emotional connection to the topic, right? And then so for me, oh yeah, and one other thing too, I was reminded that, you know, I was named after the Temple Mount. Like, so in Arabic, it's Al Haram Sharif, right? So my parents named me Sharif, right? And so that I was named after the Temple Mount. Like, I didn't realize the whole thing till someone, you know, brought it up to me. I was like, God, and even growing up in a house, my parents were like so into that area. Like, there was like a huge picture inside the house I remember growing up with. You know, I never thought anything of it. You know, I always thought like, hey, it's a place to visit, this type of a thing, blah, blah, blah. You know, they had other pictures of like Mecca, whatever in the house too. But you're saying that like I was named after that. So just like it's just like a random thing. Like, you know, like just being in this situation, like I come here, like I'm executive producing in Temple Mountain, right? But the point is saying, so that's what we're doing, right? And so we're gonna start shooting that and we're gonna do that because why is this so important? And that's the key point about all this. It's not about, you hear those Jerusalem birds? But the point is the same, it's not about, oh, it's our temple, let's get it back. Okay, yeah, there's an aspect maybe to that. I don't know. But the main thing is, I cannot, as a teacher, teach the Torah about the neshama without connecting it to the Temple Mount. Because the Temple Mount is a source of energy, right? Light comes down this world, it comes starts in Jerusalem, and then it spreads out to the four corners, right? The more as Jews do our job, that light is expressed with mercy around the world instead of judgment, right? Which means Torahs and mitzvahs, and that's why we have to be in the land. That's why they do with the land a certain way. We have all these rules because that's what we're doing, right? And so, anyways, so the point is to say that, um, you know, the idea is just to say that, okay, so that's our work, right? And so the challenge, what we're up against, right, is in essence like, you know, people who are dormant to this idea, right? Because the idea is connecting the human soul to the neshama. So if I come and talk to my, I just had a conversation about this with very important people, and you know, I was telling them because they're very much into the whole, you know, the African diaspora and this and I agree with that. I like I said to you guys before, like it's like it's these are real things, right? Not just by African Americans, also Latinos. Many Latinos are connected to, you know, Jews that were in Spain that went in exile. You know, you have obviously we have even more Ashkenaz that we don't realize, you know, connected. We have, you know, other African dynamics. We have, you know, even Asian components that are connected to Lost Tribe. You know what I mean? These are all real things, right? However, if I make that my argument, I get clumped into a way of thinking or expressions that I can't win because I don't control academia. I can't supersede someone else coming to me and saying, well, that's not what our historical data tells us. Or this is what this DNA, and it's a A1, B1, 6-1, 15-1, this, and this doesn't match with this A165. You know, I don't need that. Now, if I come in, and especially because when I'm truthful about myself, how did I get to where I'm at? I didn't get here because I was like, oh man, my family, we were, Israelites, and we can't. That probably would have ruined it for me. That's all I would have got out of it. It would have been a nationalistic thing. Like, okay, yeah, this is who I am. This is my identity. I didn't meet that. I met the Rav Berg. He was about the neshama. His teachers, Rav Brownway, about the neshama. Rav Ashlag, his teacher, was about neshama, and that's the Torah of his rabbis going all the way back to Mount Sinai. That's what I stumbled upon, right? And so when I look at that as my own personal experience, and then I look at other movements that have happened over the last 300 years, and I look at their writings, that's all they're talking about too. So I'm trying to make this on a national level, right? Not just the aspect of like saying about Jews or anything. No, my focus is saying no. I want to make an argument to humanity. Do we believe that everything we see with our eyes is the totality, or is it only a limited scope? That's one question. Second question is, do we have a soul, or are we only just a body? Second question. And then third question is, who do we entrust with our perception of reality? So th those are my positions, right? Those are my positions. So it's a position. Now underneath that, with the Jewish people, yeah, I mean, it's a question for them. It's a question to Muslims. It's a question for Christians. That's the point, right? Because the issue is that because people could be Jewish and religious, right, like to the T, and still perceive the world as what it is around them. Now, I don't know if it's kind of hard to be religious and think that, but I mean, it seems like there's people, who in the world who practice their understanding of Judaism. I wouldn't say religious people, but people who practice their religion, their love of Judaism, and they see the world in that finite perception, and that's how they read the halacha. They could pick and choose what they want because, what they see with their eyes is the totality. There's no Kabbalah. That's why I took out religious Jews, because mostly religious Jews have some influence of Kabbalah in their thought. I mean, to some degree, you know what I mean? Okay.
No,
Go ahead.
oh, I get one thing I am curious about is what is the mindset of world Jewry concerning the mosque that is there. Are we saying that we want to go to the Temple Mount, the land itself, where the spot where the temple was? Or are we, because we have to have some type of mindset about, is it viewed as an idolatrous or a place? The mosque I'm talking about, is it looked at as a place that is like that of blasphemy, or is it looked upon as a building amongst world Jewry as a place or a place of holiness? And so I guess that I think that like what is the mindset behind world Jewry concerning it?
Well, the thing is, the main idea in world Jewry is that we are not, without the paraduma, right? Without the burning of the heifers. That's why we're going to learn some Rambam today on the temple. But without certain components, we're not necessarily pure enough to be in those areas, because that's how serious we take the Holy of Holies, right? So that's the main issue. Now, assuming that assuming that assuming that we do have Paraduma and going up there, yeah, obviously the issue is not, the issue is the mosque. The issue is not Muslims, right? The issue is the dominion of isolating Jews, and all the other nations from the Temple Mount. And that's what the kind of like the mosque represents, that component, because we have to actually do work. See, they're going there and they have carpets there, they bow down, they pray to God, but we have actual physical things that we have to do in these areas, right? Assuming we're purified, right? And so that has to be figured out, right? And the thing is, for the Muslim world, they have less judgment by allowing the Jews to do their holy work, right? When they accept that, like, hey, they came at a particular time, it was an ideology, they conquered this type of things. The Jews reconquered it and then gave them the authority to control it because they're just like, hey, we just want to live here in peace. We don't necessarily need to control the holy sites. You guys can have it. You want to pray here. If that makes you guys come with us, okay, that's our concession, right? So that's the dynamic over there, right? Now, inside of Israel, there's a lot of different perspectives, right? There's a lot of different perspectives. Some people say don't get involved because it just incites the Arabs and it they start acting crazy, with the Temple Mount, and it could endanger Jews around the world, right? Some crazy anti-Semites like, look, the Jews are trying to take, and it's our, we see it, since October 7th, right? So you have that component, right? And that's the outside. That's the people who live outside of Israel. A lot of them feel that that is an issue, like more liberal Jews. Inside of Israel, you have what you call religious Zionists. The religious Zionists believe religiously in the halakha and very scholarly, like Rough Cook, who we've learned some of his Torah, about praying in that. He's a pioneer in that movement to a lot of people. And so you have people like Rav Cook and people who came here way before the state was created and had this, merging of this new era of Jews being back in Israel and halacha and everything, right? It's unbelievable what's like happening right now. Like just like what it's unbelievable, right? But the point is just saying, so you have that school of thought and it's growing, right? And a lot of those people they call settlers. Sometimes some of the people that have this ideology they call it settlers. Why? Because the dynamic when we talk about the Temple Mount, right? And we talk about the Temple Mount in this world and the Temple Mount in the heavens being connected, right? That's not just the Temple Mount. That's all of Eretz Israel. The entire land of Israel, there is a mimic. Truthfully, the entire world, right? But on the front of that conversation is Eretz Israel. As the world understands Eretz Israel, they will understand where they're at. So meaning that the as below is above. Meaning that so when we talk about Jews, moving into areas, they call them Arab territories and these types of places. On one hand, you say, hey, you know what? Why can't everyone just live? Why can't everyone just live in peace, right? Why this people the homes this people moving out of homes people all these things happening, right? But the reality is that as Jews sanctify the land and deal with it in the way that the Torah says deal with it, the Arabs become blessed. And the other nations around the world become blessed because this is how we all work together. But we have to be in this land. We have to have the land. We have to have the territory. Now, does it look pretty from an American standpoint? Growing up, coming from civil rights, these different things, equality, it doesn't look good, right? It doesn't look good. You see people, you say, hey, this person's innocent, why do they have to leave their homes, these things? That's one perspective, no? Another perspective is, well, if that Jew doesn't live in that area and we don't take responsibility, the whole world is going to be judged. Right? On Rosh Hashanah, the whole world's judged. Who's praying? Who's praying? The Torah says clearly, on Rosh Hashanah, all of humanity's judged. Who's praying? Who's praying for the whole world? Who's praying for a better year? Who's praying for more? Who's doing that? Us. The non-Jews should be praying on Rosh Hashanah too. So, this is what we're up against. Up
Well,
into the go ahead.
I just want to chime in quickly. So I have a question about that. Not necessarily a question, more of a like. So with how everything's progressing, like we see Bnei Israel, Klal Israel doing the things they need to do, and like you said, from a certain perspective, it doesn't look the way it's supposed to, or whatever. My thing is like we know as the things that Klal Israel is trying to do, Look arrive out in the office. But the things that Kalai are trying to do, when does it become like Chief Rabbi Pinchas says, like the Torah Aleph, like where Israel has to elevate the way that they conduct themselves in world jewelry, right? Because as we try to do these things, the land will start to spew you out. As that Kedusha gets to that level, like the things that need to happen, like is Klal Yisrael starting to purify themselves or find themselves? Is that conversation happening? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying you know the totality of the thought that's going on in the land of Israel, but like, do you think that's something that needs to be progressed to? Because there's one end of it where you're supposed to be a light to the nation, Baruch Hashem, but there's another end of it where it's like, are you striving to be what you need to be? Like this isn't a game at all. You know what I mean? Like these levels of holiness, it's like you have to make sure you're pure. It's just like the Kohen Gadol when he goes into the Holy of Holies, it better be together when you go in there or you're not coming out. So it's like just like your opinion of that, like as we start to progress, is jewelry getting to the level that it needs to do to try these things, to try to, retake the holy temple. And like you said, we're praying for the whole world, but it's like there's there's one level of outside looking in, it's like okay, but then there's inside looking out where you can see the cracks. You can see some of the personality. It's like, nah, this isn't correct. So that's kind of why I'm asking.
The thing is on that point, it's everything is comparable to the generation, right? So when we look at like where we're holding at as individuals, I mean, there's people like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there's people like Rabbi Kiva, there's people like Rabbi Meir, people like Rav Ashi, right? It's people like Rabbi Eliashib, right? There's great people from a long time to them, but I can't compare myself to those people because they're at a different time, a different generation, a different madrega. They were closer to the Ein Sof. I mean, they were closer to the Organuz, the concealed light, right? Every generation prior to us was closer to, the Garden of Eden, right? And so when we want to understand Klal Israel, we have to understand Klal Israel as it relates to the generation that where we're at in right now, right? This generation right now, like where are we holding at? And so the efforts that we see with all this darkness, every reason to forget about God, every reason just to become like you see a guy like Kanye. He went too far. I personally still have love for Ye. You know what I'm saying? He hurt me though. But nevertheless, I have empathy because I feel like he's dealing with a lot of emotions and he doesn't have the point is just saying I got rock honest, but the point that I'm making about Kanye, why does he care about truth? He has enough money to forget about like life. Why is he out fighting for truth? Why is he trying to create meaning? I'm not saying like he's doing it the right way. I'm not saying he's helping or not helping. I'm just saying like what is that about his neshama that at $1 billion of cash, right, which in our society today is a lot of money, an enormous amount. Why is he out doing that? Is it dysfunctional? Is it unproductive? Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, fine. I see all that. But I'm still looking at the Ratzon. I'm looking at the desire. Why does he have a desire? Why is he talking about these things? Why does he need to create revolution? Why does he have to challenge the status quo? Why does he care? Just join in, vacation, go to a new, place every other month. Travel around the world, live in the best places. Like why do you want to challenge the status quo? That's Israel. That's Jewish. That's Avraham Avinu. Now someone say, oh well, Kanye, he was talking about Hitler and that. Okay, fine, he went too far. But look at the desire of the guy. Why does he care? Oh, he needs more attention. Come on now. If he wanted more attention, he could make more hit music. What do you mind? He could do some songs. What does he need this for? Oh, well, So the point is just saying that that aspect, right? of looking at, well, Kanye's conflicted, but look at his desire. Is Kanye rewarding? Is he a messenger to us Jews that we need to do better, right? We need to do things different. I'm not condoning his speech. I'm just saying the point is saying we're still hearing a message, and the point is, why does he care? Well, the Jews obviously love Kanye, so it's just saying that, like, so when we look at the generation, we can't look at Kanye's behavior. We have to look at the desire. And if we look at Kanye's desire, not his behavior, and we understand that there's an aspect there that's Kodesh. The words are not Kodesh. The actions are not Kodesh, but there's an aspect of the Ratzon that's Kodesh, which is this: you're consumed by Klipa, you're consumed by the Gashmias, you're consumed by this, but still you want some emes, you want some truth. This is Amari Stoudemire, Yehoshua ben Abraham. This is what that is. You have complete Gashmias, fame, money, everything, and the soul wants something more. This is Abraham Avinu. This is Lech Lecha. This is Lech Lecha. So when we look at the Jewish people today, yeah, man, bro, you go down Tel Aviv, bro, there's like thousands of gay fools down there, man. Right? You got these people over here that I don't care. You got these things over, you got these people. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I can't condone the actions of my brothers, but I still have to see them as my brothers. That's my challenge. My challenge is not to control what they do and say, hey, you can't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing this, and rebuking people, because rebuke only is a mitzvah if it helps, if it can help, right? And so when I look at the world, the only way I see helping the world is by reversing the narrative. The narrative does not acknowledge we have. It's, to me, it's like super simple. It's like it's not even some like genius creative strategies. It's like the world doesn't believe we have a soul. Like the average person does not even think about their soul and what their soul needs and what makes them unique. Or they don't even think about it. Like it's not even in the thinking process. Right. And so when I see that and I see people like going out, it's like imagine like going into like a kitchen and being really hungry and, and not understanding the laws of heat or fire. And you smell something good and you see it on the stove and you go to take it and you burn yourself. Right. And you're able to kind of like get a piece of it, right? You could take a little piece of the meat, right? Just enough, you can't get too much because it burns you. You don't understand how it works. You don't understand, that a fork, a spatula, or whatever, right? You don't understand that. And so you just keep taking, right? And you get burnt every time, but you know what? It's still enough pleasure to justify it, right? Because you're hungry. So this is the thing. So this is the people in the world. The people, everyone's pursuing money. Everyone's pursuing this. Everyone does it. If they don't have, like, why people get depressed? I mean, we know spiritually why people get depressed during, Christmas and Thanksgiving, but like, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that if they have a lot of money in the bank to buy presents or these types of things, they feel good about themselves. So it just these are just some ideas. So the Temple Mount, you can't have that conversation about the neshama without the Temple Mount, the base of Mikdash, the Har Bayit. You can't do it. Why? Because that's where the light comes down at. That's something tangible. That's something that everyone can see. Everyone knows the story. And then they say, like, hey, you know what? Who's this Rabbi Mordecai guy? Is he even a rabbi? They say that sometimes. Why are you trying to hate on me? I got mega credentials. I got the whole country supporting me in my Torah. Why you guys gotta hate on me? Anyways, but the point is just saying like this, is just saying that you know, when I'm having this conversation about the neshama, I can't really have it without the Temple Mount, because it's like, how does it come down? This, it's like, but once you say the Temple Mount and you show that mechanism, and then they look it up and they're like, hey, who's this rabbi guy saying all this stuff? And they look it up and they're like, wow, this is real. The people really been writing about it. You go on Safari, wow, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So this is the idea around that, and And this is where, and you, and again, I'm not here to tell you guys what to do. If you're rolling with me, this is where I'm going. I'm on a place of purity and preparation for the building of the Beis Hamikdash, the rebuilding of it. How we get there, how God manifests it, I don't know. All I know is the guy who spoke about it in the White House follows me in my post. I'm the only person posting like this really on social media. So it's just saying, so that now have I talked to, Turk, the guy, Dirk, whatever his name, Turk, his name's Turk. Have I talked? Nope. I have no idea. Because of him saying that and doing subsequent interviews, now that was enough momentum to get certain organizations in America to get certain people in the Senate to now write a resolution, right? So what is the concept of resolution? There's different types of resolutions, but this is like a simple resolution, which is the acknowledgement of something that needs to be stated or something that, you know, um, that's something, has something to do with, the um like something that is not necessarily fully apparent, and it needs to be clarified or stated, right? And so that it was a simple resolution type of thing, and so it's not something that the president's going to see or anything like that, but nevertheless it's written in stone, and it's the beginning of the conversation. It's never existed before, ever, right? So all that's happening, right? So for me, that's that for what we're doing and having that conversation and being able to do it in a way that is because some people are like, well, is that against American policy what you're doing, the hard buy it, this type of thing. So that just happened gave me, I'm in business, we're in business because we have to connect these dots, right? I was just talking to someone about North America, and they were saying like, hey, what about the African American community? This whole thing, and this is my take on the African American community that defines themselves as Israelites, Jewish, whatever, right? So it's like this. There's many different organizations, and there's over a century long tradition, right? I think Rabbi Fournier, who's the head of who's a conservative rabbi, on the board of the New York Board of Rabbis and Chicago Board of Rabbis, who I've saw counseling. He's a conservative rabbi. I'm Orthodox, but either way, we've spoken. He's an amazing guy, right? Now, the point is saying is that by him, right? By him, he's on the Hebrew is like International Board of Rabbis that just celebrated. I don't know, it was like the 109th, something like this. This is maybe a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago. They celebrated it, right? Now the thing is that so you have all these different groups, some of them connected to Rabbi Matthews, this, whatever, Fragment Goose, whatever. So I cannot come to America and impose some type of centralized ideology. But what I can do is come to America and unify everybody around one particular idea. Not saying they're changing their outlooks or their understanding, no, but we're centralized under the aspect of the ultimate destination is connected to the Temple Mount. And it's coming from the perspective of accepting the ideology that we are human souls. We are souls that come into a body and you come into by tikkun olam, right? Everyone understands that, right? Even the conservative reform. Everyone understands that idea. I'm making it about the neshama, and I'm connecting the neshama to the divine light of God, and the source of how God says is delivered through the Jewish tradition is through the Temple Mount, the Har Bayit, right? So my dynamic is connecting everyone to this idea and getting people engaged, right, into a discussion, because most of the suffering that we have in the world today is because of this misunderstanding of reality, right? You remember we were learning Rambam, and he was talking about how people misunderstood, you know, they kind of like create this weird partnership in his head between Hashem and his creation. And they thought by honoring Hashem's creation that they were honoring him, right? And that was a mistake. And then later generations went even further to that they start honoring the creation and completely forgot about the maker. So similarly, we have an era in our generation, which are people who perceive that the physical that they see with their five senses is a totality of reality. And the sciences of our time have created a narrative that told people, see, you understand, we have to be brave enough to challenge everything for the sake of God. Because imagine during the times that Rambam is speaking about in different generations much earlier than ours, right? There was entire societies formed around this, right? And they were completely wrong. So why should we look at our society today and say, oh, well, we're completely right? There's people during that time that says, how can you challenge the power of the stars, God forbid? How can you challenge the power of the planets? How can you do it during those times? So I'm saying like this, in our generation, science has convinced mankind that we don't have a soul. That's where it's at. It's complete warfare against God, right? And science is said that we don't have a soul, and they create a whole social apparatus around it where everyone's just pursuing bodily pleasures because they don't even know who they are. Like, as it's a base design, forget about your belief, your religion, you follow, whatever. I'm talking about the base concept of what a human being is. The vast majority, and I'm talking about the upper 90 percentile of planet Earth, operates. Now, if you ask them, maybe they'll say different, but operates because of education on the basis of living a life devoid of awareness of the soul. Because anyone who's aware of the soul is going to have to do things that fill the needs of it, right? And so that's the dilemma. So you could study Judaism, but if you aren't connected to the neshama, but oh well, that sounds very Kabbalistic, and I just follow the law, and that you're in the same category as a lot of other people. You may have more of a reward in certain ways because God tells you to do these commandments, and in certain commandments, if you just do them for the sake. I don't know. Some people say you're creating more darkness in the world. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not judging people. I'm not at, I don't want to be at that point or that level where where I'm saying like, oh, you're this and that. I'm not saying that, but I am saying the point of being able to look back and say like, wow, everyone around me right now does not think about their soul, even the food that they eat. Say Oceano's at work, other people, you guys are with your family, everyone's around, right? But the thing is like this, the people around you, do they think about, is this food helping my soul, enhancing, is it bringing light to my soul? Or is this food not bringing light to my soul? Now, anybody who's focused in that area is going to eat kosher food. They're going to eat kosher food, not because they're Jewish, but because the food itself is connected to a spiritual energy that comes from the heavens into this world, and I'm elevating it through this process of recognition, through brachot. So by having a focus of that, my soul is now benefiting. Who in the world wouldn't do that? Everyone's bro. Everyone's my parents. They got alkaline water in the house. Like no, like a faucet, like a fountain. Like they made it. They had it built in. So people are willing to do things to be healthier, and they want to be clean. Oh, we're eating clean foods. Yes, yeah. Even the packaging was organic. Yes, the packaging that we bought the food in was completely. There was no preservatives in the packaging. So the point is just saying like that, like there's a whole culture around eating healthy and clean. But what about the neshama though? You ain't thought about the neshama though, because that's that education system that you received rejects it.
Well,
But, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
okay. So I guess my question is, and it's really based upon something that Otanel, the subject matter that he's bringing out. You talked about Rabbi Yefuni and Hebrew Israelites here in America, and about basically kind of rallying them together behind the idea of the idea of the soul and the Temple Mount. And I guess from what I'm understanding, the question that Akotanel brought forth was based upon the idea that if we move into an area of the Temple Mount and we start doing things, uh, will that be predicated upon our behavior that has earned, and whereas we're actually wooing, are bringing Mashiach or are pleasing Hashem in our behavior. So in that, when we rally Hebrew Israelites together, because that's what I guess that's what we're talking about now, wouldn't it be a better thing to rally them together about purifying themselves, correcting themselves, the tikkunim that way, rallying behind getting close, because the whole idea of the Temple Mount, the whole idea of the temple gives us the ability as Hebrews, Israelites, the ability to get close to God, right? And so that's what the offering is about. It gives us the ability to get close to God. So since there's a time frame now that he has pushed away our offerings and basically told us to bring him our words and our repentance and to do justice and to stop doing evil and learn to do good. Those practices is, when we talk about Hebrew Israelites, I think that that's a good way to rally Hebrew Israelites together with that common goal, that these behaviors help you to get closer to God. And a lot of that comes also from the wrong code. Now we're reading, the path of the just. That's the whole scope of getting close to Hashem. That's the whole point. So could we safely say that if we rally around the idea of purifying ourselves and turning from wicked ways, and turning from idolatrous behaviors, turning from immodest behaviors, and walking out and keeping halakha and walking after Torah, in order with the intention to please God and to get closer to Him, would that not provoke Hashem to come and to establish what we need to be established, especially with the Temple Mount? Because ideally, that still would be looked at as a place of that's not lawful. And so I guess that would be my question.
Yeah. So on that point, again, it's all about the level of the generation, right? When we learned Rav Ashlock earlier, and he talked about like why there were greater souls of the past that weren't able to bring down certain wisdoms that lower souls in the future were able to do, right? And he gives an analogy of the body, right? And he says the first generations, when the generation of the head, he says some of it was tohu, some of it was or, and he talks about the great souls of that time. But he said the thing about those great souls is that there was only a head, right? And then he went down to the neck, the generation of the neck, right? And the generation of the torso, right? And all the generations, like, were able to bring certain powerful lights down, but not like, some of like with the Ari, some of the Kabbalah, the things that we saw that, it was the same thing. We call it Kabbalah, but it's really just the same, it's a deeper understanding of the same idea, right? And so the point is to say that even though we're not as high as past generations, we're able to do more because of the shoulders of the people that came before us, right? So on our own, maybe not, right? But because of all the people that came before us, we're able to stand on their shoulders and we're able to bring down things like the temple, right? Where maybe we're not the greatest people, maybe we're not the holiest people, but nevertheless, we have enough to be able to accomplish this aspect of as Otin was saying, as Mishu, as residue, right? But but the other parts of the spiritual components of the temple were already maybe created in prior generations, but now we're physically manifesting it now, right? And again, the bigger issue is not the temple itself, but it's the revolution in thought, right? Because the sacrifices and everything that the temple will be functioning on is bringing down light, but I can't see this light. I go out and sacrifice a lamb, in the Harabayat. I mean, like, was it something's gonna, come down from the sky? What's going on, right? Or is it the acknowledgement that something is coming down from the sky, and that being a re-education for humanity to say like, oh well, you know what, I don't, it's not about just the pleasures of the world, it's about me receiving God's holy light, right? And the temple is a reminder of that. So even if I'm in Chicago, or if I'm in New York, I'm in, Mumbai, I'm in Shanghai, whatever, I'm understanding that the ground around me resembles the ground in the heavens, right? And everything that I do in this world, there is a perfected version of that in the heavens. And as I connect to that perfected version by me acting in a perfected way in this world, that I make a connection between this world and the next world. This is, my substance, right? The temple in Israel is an education tool for the humanity. So if we were such perfect people, and we had the perfect Mida, we had the perfect character and all these things, maybe we wouldn't be able to talk to the world. Maybe it's through our imperfections, through our struggles, through the pain, through the suffering, through the tyranny, through the abuse, through the trauma, that we are able to talk to humanity, right? If we were just tucked away and perfected, maybe we wouldn't be able to do it, right? And so yeah, so the people are ready. We're ready, not because we're great, but because we are greatness, right? Like greatness meaning that we were born to be great. So yeah, now is the time to make that connection, because yeah, a person could live righteously, whatever, but what's the destination? What's the destination, right? If you build a curriculum, right? What they call it, rubrics or something like this. But what's the end product? The end product is building the base of Mikdash. That's the end product. Living righteously was something that we had to accept because we were in exile, right? But now, that aspect of redemption has happened, right? That's what 1948 is. And like, oh, but you guys weren't so holy, and people were this, and it was all this, and they did it this way. Okay, fine. But you know what? If we did it in a perfect way, again, we can connect to the masses of the world, because because of their wickedness, right? They'll look at us and be like, well, that's not, anyways, because, it's the imperfection, right? So the point is, again, is just saying, so it's like, yeah, so that reality of the time is now is that, and it's not because we're perfect, because the system is perfect, and that's what we're talking about, Ram Call. So yeah, a person could say they live righteously, that's great, but that's only because we're in exile, right? And all the great leaders, they want to return to Africa, they want to return to this place, this type of thing. No, it's about rebuilding the base of Mikdash, right? It's about rebuilding the base of Mikdash, and re-educating the world that the soul needs God's light, right? And if the soul needs God's light, they have to do specific things. When the people brought sacrifices to the temple from other nations, they were connecting their nation to the life force of Creator. But they weren't there, but the sacrifice represented all of them. It was a group one. So maybe hopefully that answers the questions. But yeah, it's not, you don't have to have an A on your report card to save the world. You know what I mean? You just have to like be at the place to save the world, and you do it. All right. Any other points? I want to go into some Rambam. Hold on. Hold on a second. All righty. All right. So let's see what we're holding at. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's get a little in that Temple Mountain energy. This is also a big day. This is a Zion Cheshvan, right? Which is the 7th of Cheshvan, which is, the month after Tishri. And some people hold there's a lot of big statements around this, but this is when we start really praying for rain. This is a big shift in the cosmos is on the 7th of this. And it's a big conversation. I don't want to make it so much a point, but I would say we have free time, do a little bit of research on the 7th of Cheshvan. And Chabad has some interesting things on it type of thing. All right. All right, so there's learning a little Rambam. So it says mitzvah aseh yira'a minaha mikadash shena amar. Okay, so what does it say? It says in Leviticus. He said there's a positive commandment to hold the temple in awe. So it's a commandment to hold the temple in awe. And it says, and you shall revere my sanctuary, right? Nevertheless, it is not the physical, nevertheless, it's not the physical building of the temple which must be held in awe, but rather he who command it to be revered, right? So that's a very important point, right? Not for us, but for other people listening. When we're talking about the base of Mikdash and the temple, we're not worshiping a building, okay? What we're doing is saying the fact that Hashem says that this is holy, the creator of all things, the creator of the Ein Sof, the creator of all the endless lights, everything, that entity, on the level we can even understand such an idea, has communicated in a way that we can understand certain ideas, and one of which is the fact that the base of Mikdash and Eretz Israel you should have awe. So that's where we're at, not the building itself, right? We don't worship buildings. Ve'edzod hi yirato lo yikanes adam. She says, and how is it revered for to manifest? So what does it mean? What does it mean to revere the temple? He said a person should not enter the temple holding a staff or with sandals on his feet or wearing only underwears with dust on his feet or with money wrapped in his uh cheer chief. I don't know what that is. He says there is a superficial way that it is a superfluous. Sorry, it's superfluous. It is superfluous to say that it is forbidden to spit on the Temple Mount. If one must spit, he must it must be to absorb in his clothing. One must not take a shortcut through the Temple Mount by entering it from one gate and leaving from the opposite one in order to shorten the way. Rather, one should walk around the outside, entering only for the purpose of mitzvah. A lot of these laws, what we're learning about right now, we're learning about the laws of of having reverence for the temple, but this is also something we should have for our homes. Your home is also a holy temple, right? Your own personal things about your own self, your own personal cleanliness and these types of things. And so he's saying here that, you shouldn't just treat the temple as a place like, like, oh, I just go through, like, if a person goes into a Beit Knesset, a synagogue, they don't go in and be, oh man, I need to get some water, or, oh, I could walk through the Beit Knesset to get to one side of the street to the other. I could walk through the back way and I save some time. But rather, this whole area is sanctified, meaning that it's a place where you do mitzvahs. V'kol hanikasin laher habayit niknasim derech yamin. He says all who enter the Temple Mount should face the right side, walking around in that direction, and leave on the left side. It's interesting. So he says this applies to everyone except one who a grievous event occurred. He should circle around towards the left side. Therefore, I think that's the way we go up too. Actually, I'm thinking about it. Therefore, those who should meet him should ask him, "Why are you circling towards the left?" Because I have a mourner. He would answer. So he's saying like everyone should do it this way, except for a person who went through a very difficult thing, like they lost a life. May one who he says may one and he should answer, right? So if you see someone doing the opposite way, this is how you ask them, this is how you should respond. May the one who rests in this house comfort you and should reply, or he might answer because I have been ostracized. I mean, yeah, sorry. I don't know. I can't say. Oh my God. All right. Anyways, so he says, in which case they would reply, may the one who rests in the house bring about a change in the hearts, and thus he will follow the words of your colleagues, then they will draw you near. Okay, this is okay. All right. Kol hahishlima avodada v'nikalek lo o eno yotzea ha'ochra rav lehachala ele. Just anyone who has completed his service in the temple, to leave, he should not turn around. He should leave with his. You see people do this all the time. Like when they leave in the temple, they don't walk away, but rather they turn towards it and walk backwards. So they're not turning their back on the temple. He should leave his back to the temple. Rather, he should walk backwards slightly, walk slowly, and turn aside until leaving the temple courtyard. Similarly, the members of the priestly watch and representatives of the Jewish people and the Levites who descend from their platform should leave the temple in this manner. So everyone should leave in this kind of like, wow, like I can't turn my back on the temple. I can never turn my back on the Shem. And Shem will always be in front of me. So there's similarly one who's stepped a step backwards after his prayers, and these are expressed in a reverence of the temple. Lo he says lo yakel adam ed rasho keneged asar sa'ar mizrahi. So he says, so he's saying a person should not act frivolously before the gates of Nikol. What is this? He said on the eastern gate of the temple courtyard, for it is the position opposite of the chambers of the Holy of Holies. It's interesting. All right, so that's Rambam's position. It's over there. Okay. He says everyone who enters the temple courtyard should walk in a dignified manner. In the region where he is permitted to enter, he should conceive of himself as standing before God. As it says in Kings, my eyes and my heart will be there forever. And one should walk with all fear and trembling, as it says in Psalms. We would walk in the house of the Lord with fever. He says, "Ve'asur lechol adam leshev v'kol havara ve'ina ve'shiva." So he says, it is forbidden for anyone to sit in the courtyard. For sitting in the temple courtyard is prohibited except for the king of the house of David. As it states, the king of the house of David enters and sat before the Lord. The Sanhedrin met in the half of the courtyard in the huge stones, which is not consecrated. Afal pi shehami kadash hayom. So he says, and even though the temple is now in ruins because of our sins, a person must hold itself in awe, and one would regard it when it is standing. Therefore, one should only enter the region which he is permitted to enter, and he should not sit in an area of the temple courtyard, nor should he act frivolously when standing before the place of the eastern gate, as implied in Leviticus. You shall observe my Sabbath, and you shall revere my sanctuary. He says, explain the analogy between the two commandments. The sages comment, what are the two comments? To observe my Sabbath and to revere my sanctuary. So what do the sages say about these 2 points? Just as the observance of Shabbos applies for entity, so too eternity, so does the reverence of the temple must be external. Eternity, it's like internal, it must be external. So he's saying you're bringing these 2 points because one is expressing an external and internal quality. Observing Shabbos is internal. Revering the temple is external, even though it is in ruin and it still remains holy. So even though the temple's not there, it's still holy. It says Bizaman Shehami Kadash Be Benui Asur Lo Adam Le Hakil Ed Rosh Minha Sophim. She says the temple, when the temple is standing, a person may not act frivolously in the area of Mount Scopus, which is outside of Jerusalem, and inwards the city is prohibited. This is prohibition only. It says towards the city, the inwards towards the city only supplies when he can see the temple and there is no fence between him and the temple. So, which is also a big idea. being able to not be able to see the temple is a whole thing. But either way, when the temple is built, you got to be on point, even if you're outside of Jerusalem, let alone if you're in Jerusalem, where I'm at. Asur le Adam le Olama Shehi Fane Oz Shehi San Ben Mizracha le Ma'arav le Ma'arav Arav le Ma'arav. Okay, so it says if at all times a person may not defect or sleep with his body positioned between the east and the west. It is superfluous to state that one should not place a toilet between the east and the west in any place throughout the world. For the temple is in the west, and therefore one should not defecate to the west nor the east, for the opposite for is the opposite of the west. Rather, we should always defecate and sleep with our bodies to the north and the south. So this is a feng shui thing, and he's saying in honor of the temple, you shouldn't have a bathroom that's facing the east or west, and you shouldn't sleep in this way either. Whoever urinates from Mount Scopus inwards should not be facing the temple. Rather, he should position himself on to the north or to the south, or have a temple at his side. ואסור לאדם שיעשה בית תבנית. So he says a person may not make a house according to the temple's design, a porch with the design of the entrance hall, a courtyard resembling the temple courtyard, a table according to the design of the table of the showbread, or a lamp in the design of the menorah. However, one may make a lamp resembling the menorah with five or eight branches, even if seven branches, even with seven branches, it is not made of metal. If it's not made of metal, it's just don't imitate. Shelosha maknot mahavu bemidaver makne Israel. He said the encampment of the Jewish people in the desert was divided into three areas. So when the Jews were in the desert, they were separated in three areas. Why is this important? We're going to find out. The camp of Israel, which was itself subdivided into four camps. Okay, so the Jewish people in the desert were divided into three camps. The camp of Israel itself was divided into four camps. The camp of the Levites, which Numbers chapter 1, verse 50 states, they shall camp around the sanctuary. And the camp of the Shekinah, which includes the area. Being at the entrance to the courtyard of the tent of meetings inwards, correspondingly for future generations. The area from the entrance to Jerusalem to the Temple Mount is comparable to the camp of Israel. The area to the entrance of the Temple Mount and to the entrance to the temple courtyard in the gate of Nicanor is comparable to the camps of Levi. So Israel and Levi are up on the Temple Mount. The area of the entrance of the Temple Mount inward are comparable to the camp of the Shekinah. The Kayel, the women's courtyard, were the regions of increased sanctity, which were the first instituted in the temple. Kol Eretz Israel Kadeshat Mikala Harasot. So it says, the land of Israel is more sanctified than all the other lands. How is its holiness expressed? So he's going down the Masorah, right? So he's saying the entire land of Eretz Israel is more sanctified than all the lands in the world. And now he asks a question, well, how does this manifest? He said the Omer offering of 2 loaves of bread on Shavuot, the first fruits must be from its territory and cannot be brought from other lands. Asar padishot hen be'eretz Israel ve'zo le'ma'ala zo. So he says Eretz Israel has 10 10 graduations of I can't even spell anymore of holiness, right? Asar 10. So it has 10, and he says each higher than the preceding level. The cities which are surrounding by a wall are holier than the rest of the land. All right, so Eretz Israel is holy, and then the places around it are even more holy. He said, "How is this holiness expressed?" He says, "Those afflicted by sarats are sent out of these cities. A corpse cannot be buried inside them until the entire city or its or seven chosen representatives agree. If a corpse has been taken outside the city, it should not be returned, even though all of the all of the inhabitants are willing. The inhabitants of the city of a city desires to if the inhabitants of the city desire to disinter the corpse, they remove it from the country. They may the grave of any may not be uh, disinterred except for the of a king or a prophet. The rules ruled apply in the case of the grave which was originally placed outside a city. Afterwards, the city grew to the point where it surrounded the graves on all four sides or merely two sides which face each other. If originally there were more than 50 between the graves and the city on the other side, of course, it cannot be uh, disinterred from the graves of the inhabitants of the city until the inhabitants of the cities agree and the small distinct. Okay, so I actually there's some examples of that here in Jerusalem. I'm not going to go into it right now, but I have seen this. Okay, so it says Yushalayim Mikadeshat Mi Sa'ar. So the Jerusalem is holier than the other walled cities. He says we must eat the sanctified. We must. Okay, he says we must eat the sacrifices of lesser sanctity and second tithes within its walls because of the whole of its holiness. The following restrictions are enacted in regards to Jerusalem. No corpse is left within it and its boundaries overnight. The human bones may not be transported within it. Homes cannot be rented within it. The resident aliens may not be given the opportunity to settle in the city. No graves may remain within the boundaries except for the graves of the holy of the house of David and the graves of Khuluda, the prophetess. Oh my God, I gotta figure that out. Which were there from the days of the first prophets. We should not plant gardens or orchards within the city. It cannot be sown or plowed as a field, so that it may not be smell foul. No tree may maintained within it, except for a rose garden which was there from the days of the first prophets. We may not maintain a garbage dump there because of creepy animals. We may not build balconies or protrusions extending to the public domain. This, okay. You just talking about the things we may not be able to do. I just want to kind of speed by that. Okay, so he says, Har Habaya Mikadesh mi Meina, Shein Vezima Vezavot Nidot. So he says, the temple is holier than the other cities. The Temple Mount is holier than the city of Jerusalem. So it says, these are different impurities, Nidot, Za'av and Zaim, and women who have been given birth may not enter there, It's on the Temple Mount. However, a corpse may be brought there into the Temple Mount, and one who contracted the ritual impurity from the corpse may definitely enter there. He says it's interesting. Hachila lemikadash shemimenu she'in. So he says, and a kayal is holier than the Temple Mount. Gentiles and those who contracted impurities through contact with corpses or engaged in sexual relations with a nida may not enter there. Wow. He says, Ezarat HaNashim. He says, in a woman's courtyard is holier than the Kayal. The person who makes, I mean, we need to have a picture of all these different places so we could be clear on what he's talking about. The person who has immersed himself in a mikvah must await until the sun sets to become ritually pure, may not enter there. This prohibition is instituted by the sages according to the Torah law, which such a person may enter the camp of the Levine. Similarly, a person who contracted ritual impurity through contract with a corpse and who has entered the women's courtyard is not liable for sin offering. Okay, so all right, this is a good one. So he says, Kadesh. He says the Temple Mount is holier than the Temple Mount building is holier than the area between the altar and the entrance. Only a priest who has sanctified his hands and feet may enter there. Mibed Kodesh Havmi Kadesh. He said the chamber of the Holy Holies is holier than it. Only a high priest may enter it on Yom Kippur while he is involved in temple service. All right, so these are just kind of like the overall laws of just showing reverence to the Temple Mount, to the base of Mikdash, and there's a few more laws there, but I mean, we get the general idea. You know what I'm saying? And the general idea is to say that when something is holy to us, it's not just something in thought, but it's something in action, right? And our home is something that's holy. Our Shabbat table is something that's holy. Our Shabbat, Tupperware or whatever you call it is holy. The dishes, the napkins, the tablecloths, everything that we use is extremely holy and should be treated that way, right? And and again, this is the destination, right? The destination isn't just living righteously. That's for the Gentiles. The Gentiles' destination is just to live in a seven b'nai Noach, live in a righteous way, which is amazing. For the Jew, for Israel, our destination is rebuilding the base of Mikdash, right? That's our destination, right? Every Jew. Now, some people may argue on how we get there. Should we do it like this? Should we do it like this? Is it the right time? Are we did this to Mashiach? Should it come out of the sky? It's a lot of different perspectives, right? And those can all be different elements of the same thing, right? But the main point is the destination is the Temple Mount. So along with understanding how the light force comes into this world, which we're learning by the Ram call in the morning, we're going to have to also incorporate the building of the base of Mikdash and learning all the elements. Why? Because we have to bring that light into a physical, because once it comes down in our minds, the heavens and the earth, right? Because the heavens is a light force and the earth is ultimately the base of Mikdash. Everything is just an expression of the base of Mikdash, right? And that's the idea. So, Elder, do you want to? I just say Elder because you OTO calls you Elder, but the Elder. I mean, you are Elder, but I'm just saying I'm not trying to just say like, "Hey, Elder." You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying with reverence. You want to go first, and maybe OTO, if he could speak, he could say something.
Baruch Hashem. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no, I guess based on what we just read, I think that kind of leads back to the questions that Otinel and myself was bringing forth. It just kind of adds to it because let's just say we get to a place to whereas there's full access that's made available to Muslims, to Jews, to Christians. Okay, who would be in charge of implementing the boundaries and the restrictions to maintain that area to be holy in its holiness. Because right now, if the Muslims, what they, obviously there's restrictions that they have, and they have maintained that for a long period of time. And so, with this access, how can we ensure, that you're not going to have lewd behavior at the Temple Mount. You're not going to have people just throwing trash down. Just basic stuff like how are we, like who's going to be in charge of the halakha? Is it going to be a board, a mixture of a board that's going to be set up? I think that these are things that should be really discussed, because one thing I do know is that we wouldn't want to go down in history as the generation that just caused a level of immodesty and lewd behavior and defilement of the Temple Mount. Because I think it's very important that that's in place. Because, like I said, with the correction and the tikkunim, it's one thing to say that the pious and the religious Jews are going to be able to go there, but when the doors get open, you're gonna have Christians in there, and they're gonna be bringing crosses. They're gonna be, having holy water out there, doing tours, and it's gonna become a tourist attraction. So I'm just saying, what is gonna be put in place, or is there even discussions about that to guard the holiness and the sacredness of the Temple Mount?
Well, so it's a great question. So, now in many places, and also many places in Israel, there's certain communities and there's an understanding of modesty standards, right? So, for example, Christians can go to the Temple Mount now. They just cannot openly, they don't have the same access that Muslims do, right? They're not and they're not in such a situation as the Jews are, but they're still not like have religious freedoms themselves either. Now, the thing is when we talk about the structure of it, that structure is in place now, right? There's modesty standards at all the holy sites, not just on the Temple Mount. Behavior, dressing, all that is very strictly guarded by the police there. Now, the thing is, when we talk about the Temple Mount right now, and that's one of the things that I'm going to cover in this documentary, there's schools that have been going on for I don't know how long. I don't know how long. I'm going to know more, but they've been already training the Kohanim. There's Kohanim that are already training. They're ready to do the temple services right now. They train every day. They have yeshivas specifically here in Jerusalem. I didn't know about this, by the way. Like, I mean, I heard about it, a long time ago, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, I didn't know about. I knew about it, but I'm saying, like, now it's like a thing for me, right? And so there's entire schools dedicated preparing Kohanim to do the temple services, right? So I'm gonna go to those places. That's part of the documentary, is to go and meet these people and see what's going on, see the curriculum, talk to them, right? That means the episode in itself, no? But the point is just saying that that's the idea, right? That's the idea is exactly that the Jews will be in control of the Temple Mount. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, the Christians don't have a plan for the Temple Mount. The Muslims don't have a plan for the Temple Mount. They have a mosque, right? But that was like, they conquered and built it. You know what I mean? But when we're saying a place that all of the spiritual systems can come and bring offerings in the frame of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? From that standpoint, it's Jewish controlled. I mean, the police control it now, and they have an organization called the WAF. I think it's called the WAF, WAF, one of these things. But it's a Jordanian trust that ministers the the Temple Mount for the Muslims. But the police now, like the control of the area, is controlled by the military, the Israeli military, and facilitated by the police. And that's, when we go up, it's a combination of the police and the military that are with us when we go up there, right? For our own safety. Now, when we go up there, those police, and the military, they put restrictions. We only could go so far, these types of things. And this is in line with the halakha. And so that's there now. So we can only go so far. The police won't let us go. The rules are based off of the halakha, right? So that does exist, right? So you have that point. So, the next stages would be to be able to perform sacrifices, right? And to do korbanos and to have daily services, right? Where Jews can come, as many Jews want to come. I mean, obviously, we have to have the Parduma, bring out, people have to go through purification rituals, but that's where we're at now, right? And the halakha teaches, well, I won't say halakha, the tradition teaches that Mashiach comes after the temple, comes before Mashiach, right? Mashiach is going to stand on the temple and declare himself and say specific things, right? That comes after. That comes after. That comes after the temple's built, right? So, anyways, Hashem knows best, right? Hashem knows best, and where we're at now is we're just preparing ourselves, right? And we're preparing ourselves in mind, in action. I'm taking it upon myself as much as possible, maybe daily. Um, Maybe I may, if I move closer to Old City, it could be maybe even twice a day. But taking it upon myself to lead prayers, on a daily basis there, going forward, and that being the focus of that. And when you guys come to Israel and you spend time, you'll be a part of that process of just coming and just being in a state of purification and service on the temple. And then we're going to do other things like advocacy and content creation and all these things right now that's there. But the thing is, all the other things, lost tribes, all that's all still there. The thing is, that's not the conversation, right? Because if you do that, you turn into an intellectual battle. If we turn it into the soul, you can't compete with that. Now you got to stand in front of people, but you ain't got no soul. So now I want to be in that argument. I don't want to be in an argument, of the lost tribes and who got where and how it happened and this and blah blah blah. I mean, if you, yeah. I mean, you could say, why is my Parsufim connected to these Avoda? Oh, I can see I have a lineage and there's a connection, but that's all it is. That's all it is. It's a lineage that says like this is why I have the desire to receive more than the guy over there, right? I want to connect to God more than the guy over there, right? I want to think about Hashem more than the guy over there, right? So that's all it is parsufing. Now, what do you do with it, right? What do you do with it? And that's the difference. Otino, you got anything? All right. So, anyways, so we'll just keep pushing with this, with this whole concept. But yeah, I mean, it's a destination, and the destination isn't, living righteously. The destination is rebuilding the world, right? And we have the power to do that, right? We are chosen to see ourselves in that way, right? And that's the reality. We are here to build a new world, and that new world is a consciousness that brings a divinity to all human beings, right? All human beings are divine. They're holy. Israel is there to elevate, to be a light. That's because Isaiah says, right? This is what we're supposed to do. So that's what our service is about, right? And so now we got to rebuild the temple. I mean, that's just what it's about, right? I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's really not that crazy. I go there every day. I see it's there. Israel's already in control of it. I'm seeing construction happen all over Jerusalem. Let's just build it, and there's no timeline when Mashiach comes. But the point is saying the message and why it will be sanctified is because the message is that we're building it, one, because God said so, right? And we could study the halakha of like, should we build it if we can? We can, right? But we'll get there. But right now we're just learning the basic laws and whatever. It's just a lot going on, but it's happening. It's a real thing.